Hello, everyone. My name is Tyler Colburn. I am the professional development consultant with the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers. We're joined by Catherine Sharp from SOAR, Survivors of Abuse Recovering, who's going to be leading us through a session today on peer support and helping practices. So thinking about the ways that peer support relate to social work practice and what are the things in relation to peer support that we can learn and apply in our practice, but also what are the resources out there around peer support that we can refer to in community. So I'm grateful you folks are here. I know it is very hot out there today. It's the middle of the summer. We often have lower engagement in the summer. So we do have a smaller crew today, but I'm grateful that you're here for however you're showing up, whether it's for lunch or you're carved some time away from work to be here. Just grateful. I'm going to begin with the land acknowledgement. So I'm presenting from Gulwagach, which is Big Pine Hill in the Mi'kmaq language, which is colonially known as Citadel Hill, Nova Scotia, or in the Chipuktuk area, which is located on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. The inherent rights of the Mi'kmaq were recognized in the peace and friendship treaties signed with the Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy peoples from 1725 to 1779. This series of treaties did not surrender Indigenous land, resources, or sovereignty to the British Empire, but instead established rules for an ongoing relationship between nations. Canada later reaffirmed the treaties in Section 35 of the Constitution Act of 1982, and they remain active to this day. And so, you might have heard the term, we are treaty people. So everyone in this province, Indigenous or non-Indigenous, are treaty people. And when we think back to through the 400, 500 years of settler colonialism in this area, in contrast to Indigenous, livelihood and resistance and resurgence, these original treaties are supreme law in Canada, and we do not do a very good job of upholding them in our relationships and our policies and our practices through every level, so the micro, meso, and macro. And so encourage all folks to critically reflect on your own accountability to Indigenous resistance and resurgence and how we might be able to support land defenders and water protectors in Mi'kma'ki across Turtle Island from around the world. Because it's important to recognize the land doesn't mean acknowledgement. What we're striving to do in these moments is to demonstrate our accountability to the land and the people of this land. And that is the acknowledgement we're making. And it's important that we move from an acknowledgement into action. So this is a post from Lauren Jerk. It's available on LinkedIn. I'll also share this link to this presentation, so you're welcome to engage with any of the content here. But these are some reflective questions that are meant to help people, specifically, often settler Canadians like myself, move from acknowledgement into action. These are invitations. And so this first one is, acknowledging complicity in harm can be painful. How can this acknowledgement be mobilized away from guilt and shame as the basis of visceral responsibility or accountability? What does it mean to practice reciprocity? And then, what intentions and actions do you have to disrupt and dismantle colonialism beyond territory acknowledgements? So as social workers and helpers, as people who are striving towards liberation and social justice, we have to reconcile with the historic and present day harms of settler colonialism and how they're implicated in our practices and our communities and our relationships. So wherever you are, however you're arriving, you have an invitation to move from acknowledgement into action related to reconciliation and decolonization. Separate and distinct is also our commitment to reparations for people of African descent here at the college, but also wanting to acknowledge the distinct and history of labor of people of African descent and African Nova Scotians in this province, and how they've helped shape our political or cultural or economic landscape through hundreds of years of livelihoods and community building here in the province. And recognizing that the same colonialism, white supremacy that seek to oppress and have related contributed to genocide and harms of Indigenous people are also to the same forces that have impacted and harmed historically and presently people of African descent. So as I sit here in Chipuktuk and Gulwagach, I'm thinking about Africville, and the resistance of people like Eddie Carvery, who have been pushing for reparations for that community and people of African descent and African Nova Scotians in Africville for many, many years, right up to his death not so long ago. I also wanted to share and remind folks that the theme for African Heritage Month this year, which was in February, but is something that we can carry forward in our practice every single day, is strength and unity, moving forward with purpose, prosperity, power, and progress. So an invitation to all of us on this call to carry forward that theme throughout the year. And for us here at the college, we consider reparations around these four or five things. So as we think about, acknowledging and atoning for the deep-rooted history of anti-Black racism in the province, this is what it looks like at the college. It looks like restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and then guarantees of non-repetition. I'm going to pause for a moment and put a link to this presentation in the chat. And I'm also going to invite people to check in. So folks who are here on the call, you have access to the chat functionality, and I'd love to hear from you. What are your name, pronouns, land that you're on, your practice area, how are you arriving, and what motivated you to join the call today? So that's a menu of options, respond to one or all, but we'd love to also hear from you folks. So name, pronouns, land you're on, practice area, how are you arriving, what might be on your heart, mind, spirit as we start this call, and what motivated you to join today. I also wanted to share, this is from Kai Cheng Tom. This is an invitation to think critically about the world that we're currently in. And Kai Cheng Tom writes, never has the framework of diversity and inclusion been less suited to meet the current moment, nor the reality of mass violence, racist and gender-based violence, class warfare, social collapse, and ecocide that we are currently facing. Heavy words for a heavy time. But when I think about the content from today around peer support, and the insights that are going to be shared by Catherine from SOAR, helping and being relational are the most human things in the world. And so many of the frameworks and the policies and the structures within our society disconnect us from our own humanity and our own relationality. And so invite you to think critically about how you as helpers can support liberation. That is beyond the frameworks that we have, that is beyond the structures that we currently have. Because some of the structures and frameworks that we have just are ill-suited to meet the current complexity of now. But a reminder to always come back to the fact that we're humans who can help humans. And that can be through social work, it can be through peer support, it can happen in lots of different ways. For folks on the call who are social workers, a reminder that you can track this as 1 hour of professional development under the formal category. And you also have access to Catherine's presentation today. So if you click on the link in the chat, there is the link to this presentation. And in that, you can either click on this link here or use the QR code to have access to the presentation on your own time at any time. We invited you folks to also engage in the chat in any way that you'd like. I know Catherine has some reflective questions, discussion questions as well. That you are invited to engage in the chat to respond to. And so please push yourself a little bit if you can to just think critically and share your thoughts in an open forum through the chat. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Catherine Sharp, who's the Executive Director of Survivors of Abuse Recovery, or SOAR, to lead us through this content today. Catherine will be joining us off camera today, but we will have access to a presentation that will be on a share screen. And Catherine, I'm here. If you need anything, I will go off camera for now. But looking forward to seeing your content.
Great, thank you. I'm muting myself. Thank you everyone for coming today. I really appreciate your time on this hot summer day. I'm here to present the power of peer support, building connections, hope, and healing through shared experiences. And my name is Catherine Sharp. I am the Executive Director of SOAR, Survivors of Abuse Recovering, and I've been in this position for just over 1 year now. All right, so by the end of this, I'm hoping that you will build a foundational understanding of peer support by exploring its core principles, including equality, respect, hope, and shared lived experience. We will also look at evidence-informed practices that demonstrate the effectiveness of peer support and learn how SOAR develops peer support skills across Nova Scotia. For skills beyond understanding the concepts, participants will have the opportunity to think about how these principles can be applied in real helping relationships. And we will discuss how peer support complements rather than replaces professional services. And for values, we will reflect on the importance of lived experience as a source of knowledge and expertise. Peer support is grounded in the belief that people with lived and living experience have valuable insights, that can inspire hope, reduce stigma, and strengthen recovery. And we will consider how peer leadership contributes to a more inclusive, person-centered community and social work practices. So by the end of this session, my hope is that you'll have a clear understanding of what peer support is, why it matters, and how its principles can be incorporated into your own practices. So I have a first discussion question right out of the gate. And again, as Tyler mentioned, it's completely up to you to engage as you can right now at your capacity in the chat. So I just would love to hear, when you hear the term peer support, what words or ideas come to mind? So you can just have one word answers. Maybe you've never heard of peer support before. Maybe you've had experience with peer support, community-based. Okay. Lived experience, experts, compassion, understanding. Yes, those are all what I could think of when I think of peer support as well. First voice support, credibility. I like that one. Have walked in their shoes. We actually use that kind of slogan, the walked in their shoes, quite a bit at SOAR. So I love seeing that. All right. So a couple of things that I had written down: validation, acceptance, understanding. God, you smart cookies. Yeah. So all those things are great. I also have like hope, recovery, connection, which I think goes with community, which someone else mentioned as well. Community-based understanding was said, kind of that shared experience and the walking in someone's shoes, first voice, all those things are great. All right, we'll move on. So a little bit about Survivors of Abuse Recovering. So it is a province-wide organization that provides peer support to adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse that are 19 years of age and older. So we support adults 19 and older who were sexually abused between the ages of 0 and 18. Our focus is on creating opportunities for healing through connection with others who have lived experience. Our services include individual peer support matching, where survivors are paired with a trained peer supporter who can offer understanding, encouragement, and hope. Some of the themes we just talked about in our last question. We also provide survivor-centered support through both one-on-one peer support and group support, and currently those are available online. And we recognize that people heal in all different ways. In addition to direct support, SOAR is committed to public education and awareness to help reduce stigma and increase understanding of the impacts of childhood sexual abuse. We work with community organizations and service providers to strengthen supports across the province, and we invest in training and volunteer development to ensure our peer supporters are well prepared and supported in their roles. Everything we do is guided by a trauma-informed approach. This means that, safety, choice, trust, collaboration, and empowerment, all very important. And we strive to create compassion, non-judgmental spaces where survivors feel heard, they're believed and accepted. Rather than focusing on what happened to someone, we focus on supporting them in their healing journey at their own pace. So peer support is support provided by someone who has lived experience with a similar challenge, circumstance, or life experience. That shared experience creates a unique connection that differs from traditional helping relationships. So peer support is grounded in shared understanding. While no two experiences are exactly the same, peers can relate to many of the emotions, challenges, and barriers that another person may be facing. This shared understanding often helps people feel less isolated and more understood. And is also based on mutual respect. Rather than one person being the expert, peer support recognizes that both individuals bring valuable knowledge and strengths to the relationship. It is a partnership built on equality and collaboration. Empathy is another key principle. So, peer supporters listen without judgment and offer compassion based on their own lived experience, creating a space where people feel safe to share their stories. Hope is central to peer support. Seeing someone who has experienced similar challenges and found their own path towards healing can help others believe that recovery and growth are possible for them as well. And finally, connection is what brings all of these principles together. Many survivors describe feeling isolated or misunderstood. Peer support helps reduce that isolation by fostering authentic relationships built on trust, understanding, and belonging. Ultimately, peer support is founded on the belief that lived experience is a valuable form of knowledge. It can inspire hope, promote healing, and create meaningful opportunities for personal growth in ways that complement other forms of support. All right, another reflection question. You folks did great in the last question. I appreciated all of your answers. So, have you ever experienced support from someone who had similar lived experience? And what made that support different? And this doesn't have to be like a peer support model, it could just be a person in your life, a friend, a family member that had something similar experience to you. Yes, mutual and empowering. Yeah, I think it's great to connect and share with someone that is similar to yourself, maybe your values, beliefs, ideals. Okay. Feel like I did to just explain or justify myself, my experience. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's something about just being understood, like just being like, this person gets it. They get me. Like, I don't have to over explain. Like, over explaining is the worst. Sometimes I feel like in my life as like a mom, I feel like I'm over explaining all the time. And it's nice to talk to someone that's like, I've been there. Like, I've walked in your shoes. Like, I know what it's like. And you just feel so validated. You feel like it's authentic, like you're saying, it's this human connection. We're always just striving to make these human connections. So you guys are all saying wonderful things. So everything you said and just maybe a few other things is kind of grounded in understanding rather than theory. That hope inspired, as I said, and some of you said the been there. It's less focused on fixing the problem and more focused on someone listening and understanding how you're feeling. Because sometimes we just want to talk about something and we don't need someone to fix it for us. Like maybe we can fix it through the conversation and the understanding and the listening ourselves. Great. Thank you, everyone. So, why shared experience matters? So, many survivors of childhood sexual abuse experience feelings of isolation. They may believe that no one else could possibly understand what they've been through, or they may have spent years keeping their experiences hidden. This can leave people feeling very alone. So, shame is another common experience. Survivors often carry feelings of self blame or responsibility for what happened, even though the abuse was never their fault. These feelings of shame can make it difficult to reach out for support. Many survivors also describe feeling misunderstood. Even when friends, family members, or professionals have the best intentions, it can be hard for someone without lived experience to fully understand that lasting impact that childhood sexual abuse can have. Difficulty trusting others is also very common. Trauma, particularly when it occurs in childhood, can affect a person's ability to feel safe in relationships. Building trust often takes time, consistency, and patience. This is where peer support can make a meaningful difference. Shared lived experience doesn't mean every survivor's story is the same, but it creates a foundation of understanding that often doesn't require extensive explanation. Many survivors say there's a sense of being understood simply by talking with someone who has walked a similar path or walked in someone's shoes. That shared understanding can help reduce feelings of isolation, build trust, and remind survivors they are not alone in their healing journey. All right, another question. You've been doing so well. So, why do you think shared experience can sometimes build trust? And I'd say more often than not, build trust more quickly than professional expertise alone. I don't see the question being reposted, so I'll just, oh, well, thank you. No underlying motive. Yeah. So, why do you think shared experience can sometimes build trust more quickly than professional expertise? Being understood, but fewer power dynamics. Yes. Yeah, it's equality. It's not someone being in a position of power. Relational bridge. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, so it creates an immediate sense of understanding and connection, and it kind of reduces the need to explain or justify your feelings and experiences. You're just kind of you're feeling believed before having to over explain. Um, Common theme we've talked about already helps people feel less alone and isolated, increases feelings of being believed and validated, demonstrates that healing and recovery are possible, reduces power imbalances. Someone said that can exist in professional relationships. Often survivors speak to us about that is a challenge for them, that power dynamic. Creates a sense of authenticity and relatability and helps build trust. Like another very common theme, trust and common ground. So we're going to go through core principles of peer support, and we've already touched on some of these, but I think it's really important that some themes we really have to talk about a few times. So safety, creating emotional and psychological safe spaces. So safety is the foundation of peer support. People are more likely to share when they feel respected, believed, and free from judgment. Emotional safety means people can talk openly without fear of criticism or shame. And psychological safety means people can set boundaries and choose what they are comfortable sharing. For survivors, feeling safe is often the first step towards healing. For trust, building relatable and respectful relationships. Trust is built through consistency, honesty, and respect. And peer supporters build trust by listening, showing up, and respecting confidentiality. Trust develops over time through actions, and shared experience can help create trust, but it still requires healthy boundaries. Empowerment, supporting people and making their own decisions and recognizing their own strengths. Peer support is not about fixing problems or giving advice, it's focusing on helping people recognize their strengths and abilities. The goal is to support people in making their own choices and decisions. And peer supporters walk alongside someone rather than directing their journey. Inequality, valuing lived experience and shared understanding. So, equality recognizes the value of that lived experience, and peer support is built on connection and shared understanding. Lived experience can help reduce power differences and create authentic relationships. And it reminds us that people can learn from and support one another. And for hope, demonstrating that healing and recovery are possible. And again, I've touched on this before, and it's great for people to see this example in front of them of this person has done it. I have hope that I can be there someday. So hope is a powerful part of peer support. Connecting with someone who has faced that similar challenge can help people see that is possible. And hope is not about promising outcomes. It is about helping people believe that growth, recovery, and change can happen. All right, why peer support works. So, research consistently shows that peer support improves outcomes in several important ways. It helps people feel less alone, increases hope and confidence, strengthens resilience, and often helps people stay engaged with services. That's why peer support is now recognized as an evidence-informed practice and is being integrated into mental health systems across Canada. So I wanted to go over some myths about peer support because there are several common misconceptions about peer support. So the first misconception is that peer support is just chatting. So that is part of it. There's a conversation, it's part of the process. And effective peer support is much more intentional than just chatting. It involves active listening, building trust, maintaining appropriate boundaries, and creating a safe, supportive space where people can explore their experiences. Every interaction is guided by peer support principles and a trauma-informed approach. So another misconception is that anyone with lived experience can automatically be a peer supporter. Yes, lived experience is essential, but that's only one part of the role. Peer supporters also need training, ongoing supervision, self-awareness, and an understanding of ethics, boundaries, and communication skills. It's about using lived experience throughout thoughtfully and safely in service of someone else's healing. Some people also believe that peer support replaces therapy or other professional services. Whoops, sorry about that. I have to find out where I are in my notes though. Sorry, folks. This is what happens when you click the wrong one. Yeah, so it doesn't replace therapy or other professional services. So peer support complements clinical and community supports by offering something different and a relationship built on shared lived experience, hope, and mutual understanding. Many people benefit from both peer support or professional services at the same time. And I also want to state that some people just want to take peer support and some people want to take professional services. And whatever helps someone in their healing journey is great. But for this presentation, I really just wanted to highlight that they can support each other and they're not competing services. They're helping each other if someone wishes to explore both. So finally, there is a misconception that peer supporters give advice or tell other people what to do. So instead, peer supporters empower individuals to share their own decisions or to make their own decisions. They ask questions, listen without judgment, share parts of their own experience when appropriate, and help people identify their own strengths and choices. So the key takeaway is that peer support is a trained, ethical, and evidence-informed practice. It's grounded in lived experience, but it's strengthened and uplifted by skills, ongoing learning, and a commitment to supporting others in a way that is safe, respectful. All right, so therapy and other clinical services are obviously different than peer support, and they're provided by trained professionals. And so some of their focuses are on assessment, diagnosis when appropriate, treatment planning, and evidence-based interventions. Clinicians help people manage symptoms, develop coping strategies, and work toward structured therapeutic goals, whereas peer support has a different but equally valuable role. It is grounded in shared lived experience, and rather than addressing or treating someone, peer supporters often offer understanding without judgment, create opportunities for genuine connection, and foster hope and belonging. The focus is on walking alongside someone in their healing journey, not directing it or fixing it. And peer support can also provide a bridge between therapy sessions or while someone is waiting to access clinical services. We know that wait times can be long. We know this in our mental health system. And healing doesn't just wait or pause while someone is waiting for those services. So having a peer supporter during that time can help people stay connected, feel supported, and maintain hope. It's important to remember that these approaches are complementary, not competing. When peer support and clinical services are available together, they can improve engagement with services because people often feel more comfortable and supported. They can reduce isolation by helping individuals build meaningful connections, provide additional emotional supports outside of clinical settings, and ultimately strengthen recovery and overall well-being. The goal isn't to replace professional care, it is to add another layer of support that recognizes the unique value of lived experience. All right, so peer support is becoming an important part of mental health care across Canada. The Mental Health Commission of Canada recognizes peer support as a key part of recovery. It highlights the value of lived experience and encourages organizations to include peer support as part of their services. The Center of Addiction and Mental Health also includes peer support in both hospital and community programs. They found that peer support can help people feel more comfortable assessing services, build trust, and make it easier to navigate the mental health system. Across Canada, including here in Nova Scotia, peer support is now part of many services. You'll find it in Canadian Mental Health Association programs, crisis and recovery services, community outreach programs, and peer-led initiatives. The reason for this growth is simple. Research shows that peer support works. It helps reduce isolation, increase hope, encourages people to stay connected with services, and provides an extra layer of support alongside professional care. The key message is that peer support doesn't replace, again, I've said, clinical services. It works alongside them to help people feel supported, understood, and connected. All right, so I'm not going to make this a poll question. I'm just going to ask the question. So I've kind of given you some choices this time, and there's no wrong answer because all of these things are benefits of peer support. But based on your own experiences, I'm interested to see what you think is the greatest benefit of peer support out of these choices of reduced isolation, increased hope, improved connection, empowerment, and engagement with services. Yeah, isolation, empowerment, connection. Isolation is so scary too. And you can be out there in community and seem present, but still feel very isolated. Improve connection. Yeah, so improved connection might stand out for those who see peer support as like a bridge between clients and services. So you're allowing that other person, the person engaged in peer support, having different levels of connection. And maybe for some of you, you've worked with clients before and that do feel isolation. So you can see how reducing isolation could be more important. All right. I mean, they're all important, but they all kind of play different roles. All right. All right. So peer support connects directly to NSCSW Value 4, Valuing Human Relationships, and Guiding Principle 4.1, which emphasizes that social workers place the well-being and interests of all people at the center of their relationships. Oh, you guys are such good humans. I love that. Peer support is closely aligned with this value because it's fundamentally built on that meaningful human connection. So, at its core, it's about relationships that are respectful, supportive, and centered on the needs and experiences of the person receiving support. In peer support, the focus isn't on directing or fixing someone, but showing up in a way that focuses their well being, autonomy, and dignity. That relationship itself becomes a key part of the support. This alignment highlights how peer support complements social work practice. Both are grounded in the importance of relationships, trust, and human connection. And in the last question, I saw that was very important to people as essential elements of healing and well being. Peer support also connects to the guiding principle 7.1, which states that social workers are committed to the ongoing development of their professional abilities and knowledge. Peer support contributes to this by broadening how we understand healing and support. It brings in lived experience as a form of expertise, which can deepen our understanding of what people actually find helpful in real life recovery during journey. So again, like understanding and listening to that first voice perspective of people telling you what's working for them. It also challenges us to think beyond traditional clinical or service-based perspectives and consider the value of relational, person-centered, and experience-based knowledge. In that way, peer support can enhance professional learning and strengthen practice. So I'd like to open this up for discussion and ask you, excuse me, how do you see peer support aligning with social work values and ethics? Take some water while this is happening. So, how do you see peer support aligning with social work values and ethics? You are the experts in that category. Hmm. Autonomy. Gosh, I feel like autonomy is like a new buzzword, but it shouldn't be a new buzzword. I coach a lot of sports and I talk to youth all the time about their autonomy, and some of them don't even, at their age, don't know what autonomy even means. You're right, very important. Mhm. Yeah, person-centered, strength-based, rooted in respect. Yeah, I believe complex problems of today. I guess we're so smart. Yeah, I really believe that these peer support principles do greatly align with the values of social workers and what you're trying to do and the impact that you're making on the world. Mhm. All right, those are all great answers. And again, you're the experts in social work, not me, so it's great to hear your perspectives. All right, we're going to talk a bit about the SOAR peer support model, and we'll explain a little bit how the process works. So, the intake process is an important first step in peer support because it helps ensure that support is offered is appropriate, safe, and meaningful for the individual. So, how SOAR works is that we do have an intake person who is also a survivor. And when someone reaches out to SOAR, there's multiple ways that they would connect in need of our services. So we don't have a referral process. Like you, if you had someone you're working with, a client that needed to contact us, they can contact us themselves. They don't need to go through any referral process. But I do find often we connect with other not-for-profits, agencies, helpers who that handoff, it's not a referral in a sense, but a handoff of trust. So if someone's working with you and they trust you and you hear that they're a survivor and they're looking for some services and support, and you can pass them off to us and say, hey, I had a presentation about SOAR. I know a little bit about them. So that trust um, in your relationship with them is really helpful in matching them up with our services. And we have multiple ways to connect with us. So email, we have just a text line because some people don't want to talk to a person on the phone. They want to send a text and they want to be text back. And so we were respecting the type of communication that they're hoping for. There's a number that they can just call and it's like, hey, nobody answers this number. It goes to a voicemail. You can leave a voicemail and we'll call you back. Or they can just call the phone and talk to someone. So we believe having multiple ways to communicate with us is reducing the barrier for people to connect with us in the first place. So once they reach out and they connect with our admin person, it starts with this, beginning with this understanding of individual needs. So getting a sense of what this person is looking for, what kind of support they need right now, what their goals are, and what feels most important to them. And so from there, we move on to exploring those needs more deeply. And this could include a discussion on their experiences. And when I say experiences, I don't mean that they have to tell their story. At no point is any survivor expected to tell their story. That is a choice that they can make. But we do want to have an understanding of their experiences, maybe with peer support before or with therapy. And again, it's whatever people feel comfortable sharing. And like, so if we know their current supports that might help us match up what they need now, safety considerations, and what their hopes are to gain from peer support. And so next is to determine the appropriateness for peer support. So not every situation is fit for peer support alone, especially if someone's in crisis. So if someone's in crisis, we'll refer them to the appropriate channels. So this can help ensure that peer support is being offered in the right context and alongside other supports when needed. Another important step is matching. So we have currently 27 active peer supporters in Nova Scotia, all of Nova Scotia. We have a quite a diverse group of peer supporters. And so with matching, it's important that people are paired with individuals that support them and their trust and comfort and connection. So often people want a particular person that's had similar experiences, or maybe they want to talk to someone of the same gender, maybe they want their, queer, and they want to talk to someone who is also queer. It completely is up to them what they feel comfortable. So this brings us into a discussion question. So what would you look for if you were matching two people in peer support relationship? So imagine you're a admin person, you're the matcher. So you have the database of people and you think, okay, this person is coming to me, like what would be important to match these people up? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you're exactly right. We also really take in mind the sense of community, like because we in Nova Scotia we're small and our communities are small and people hear about your lives. So often if we have like a person calling from Yarmouth, maybe the best approach is to match them up with a peer supporter from Cape Breton, so they're not in community with each other. But we've actually had people that wanted to talk to someone in community. So again, it's like that first voice perspective and like what are people wanting? Like we don't tell people what they want. We want to know what they want. Interest, yeah, similar interests, passions, and hobbies. I love that you said that because peer supporting isn't just like having conversations about childhood sexual abuse. Some of it is just like chatting with a peer about life and what's going on and what your interests are and what you did that day. You need to present advice and support them. Yeah. Yeah, I think what we're learning from this question is there are a lot of things to consider when matching someone, and you want to make sure that the peer that's being matched is getting what they need, but also that the peer supporter is getting what that need because it is a mutual relationship, and we want to make sure that both parties are feeling supported. So even when we do match people up, we always tell our peers and peer supporters that maybe on paper or what we know about the peer supporter, they would be a good match, but maybe it just isn't a good fit. And that is okay to just say, hey, like, could I be matched up with someone else? This just wasn't working for me. We want it to work for them. So again, there's no like, okay, this is your peer supporter, like you're stuck with them. So there people are allowed to kind of shuffle around and find like what clicks for them. That's really important to think about. All right, so training peer SOAR peer supporters. So in peer support training, one of the most important things we make in our training is it's not about teaching people how to tell their story. So as a peer supporter, you're not telling the peer about you. Most peer supporters already have lived experience, and that lived experience is not something we need to train into someone. Instead, the focus is on how to use that experience safely and appropriately in a supporting role. Training is really about teaching people how to listen and how to be present with someone else's story without taking it over, redirecting it to yourself, or making it about your own experience. Personally, I don't think I'd be a great peer supporter. I'm neurodivergent, and how I relate to people is if they told me that their dog just passed away and they're really sad, I would just be like, yeah, my dog passed away too. And then I would go into this story about how my dog passed away. And I don't do it to make it about me. It's like I want them to know I know what it's like too. And there's a difference between having the same experience, but then allowing them to continue to have their conversation and talk about their experiences and be a listener. So it's about learning how to hold space for someone else while still maintaining boundaries, very important, and keeping the focus on the person that's receiving the support. So the important message here is that while lived experience is essential to peer support, it's not enough for its own. And so effective peer support also requires training, ongoing support, reflection, and accountability. These elements help ensure that peer support remains safe, ethical, and helpful for the people we are supporting. Right, support the supporters. This is very important. So we cannot expect peer supporters to pour from an empty cup. And this is very similar in your line of work as you have a lot of heavy stuff going on and you can't help people with that heavy stuff and walk alongside them with that unless you yourself are being supported. Peer support is relational and it often involves hearing really difficult or emotional stories. And it can also bring up trauma that they've experienced in their own lives. So peer supporters need consistent and ongoing supports to sustain their well-being and effectiveness in their role. These supports include regular check-ins, which provide opportunities to stay connected, reflect, and identify any challenges early. So all of our peer supporters have a mentor, and their mentors are all peer supporters that have been doing it for a long time, or maybe they've lessened their caseload because they've been doing it for a long time, but they're part of the peer mentor team. So everyone has someone they can like reach out to if they're having a difficult time. And then the peer mentors have a committee where they all meet together and support each other. So that's really important. We also have continuing education opportunities. So these help peer supporters build their skills and deepen their understanding of trauma informed and ethical practice. We know things are changing all the time, and it's really important to be up to date on those. Debriefing opportunities. So again, they can debrief to other peer supporters, their peer mentor. So it's essential for giving space to process that emotional impact and maintain healthy boundaries. And also, people are allowed to, we encourage people to take breaks, to cycle in and out of peer support and really look after themselves. And additional to that is clear policies and procedural guidance. So we have to have structure, consistency, and safety in decision making. So these supports are not optional, they're part of maintaining a healthy and effective peer support program. This brings us to another question as what risks might exist if peer supporters are not being supported themselves? Yes, yeah, it's a big one. Burnout. Oh, yeah, I think a lot of us are feeling that in our helping industries. Yeah, boundary crossing. You've seen that. Yeah, so our peer support training itself is quite intense, and we do have a readiness evaluation with a panel of peer supporters and peer mentors to make sure that people are ready to peer support because some people aren't ready, and we invite them to join our training next year because we want to prevent these things. So feeling ready to do something is really important. So similar, I had some notes jotted down and you've said most of them. So again, emotional fatigue, burnout, compassion fatigue, boundary challenges, decreased effectiveness of their role, unintended emotional harm. It's pretty much got it all. Smart. All right. So it starts with clear role expectations. So peer supporters understand what their role includes and what it doesn't. So we just don't go, oh, you're a peer supporter, go support your peer. So confidentiality and boundaries. So we just talked about boundaries. They're really essential to create trust and ensure relationships stay safe and appropriate. Along with this, safety procedures and ongoing oversight help guide practice and provide accountability. So ethical peer support is often described as walking alongside, not leading. So advocating with, not for, supporting, not fixing, listening, not directing. So this reinforces that peer support is about connection and presence, not clinical intervention. It is very important to be clear that peer supporters are not counselors, therapists, or crisis responders. Their role is different and it works alongside, not in place of those professional supports. All right. We have a little discussion scenario. So a peer supporter receives a late night text from a participant who is struggling emotionally. Sorry. So the peer supporter, this is their peer. They get a late night text from them. So what considerations should guide this peer supporter's response? And so how might this peer supporter respond to this late night text? Should they respond to a late night text? What do you think? Yeah, should they respond at all? Policy and procedure. Yeah, so this scenario highlights the importance of boundaries, role clarity, and safety. Pattern. Is this the usual pattern? That's a great thing to consider. And like we also have to consider that this, and this is why I didn't put a lot of information here. These are the things we need to think about is this a relationship they already have that's normalized and everyone it's a boundary that everyone's comfortable with? Because we do allow our peer supporters, although we have very important guidelines, we also respect the relationship between the peer supporter and the peer and what works for them. Maybe they're both night owls and that's the time that they communicate with each other and that's what works for them. But in this case, one of the big considerations is safety. So making sure, is this person safe right now? But yeah, all good answers. There's so many nuances to human beings. You know, it can be really challenging. Oh, did I miss one? I feel like I'm sorry. All right, so looking at time, I think we're doing pretty good for time. We're almost done. So here's another case study activity. So very general information again, Sam's story. So Sam is a 38-year-old survivor of childhood sexual abuse. We don't know any details right now about Sam, but they've been waiting several months for counseling services. They're hesitant to talk with friends and family, and they're feeling isolated. And they contact SOAR and are matched with a trained peer supporter. So, how, based on kind of what we learned in this presentation, how could peer support help Sam while waiting for counseling? So, how can this help? Why Sam's waiting to get some counseling? Feel less isolated, more connected. Yep, reduce feelings of isolation and loneliness. Yeah, yeah, help them get used to difficult things. Yeah, offering hope. Yes, the experience of the frustration of navigating services. So true. I think helping Sam feel believed and validated, encouraging them to remain engaged and continue seeking support rather than giving up, because that does happen. Sometimes you can be waiting for a really long time and just like what someone mentioned before that they can relate to waiting for services, reduce chance of feeling abandoned. Yeah. All right. So, follow-up question is once the counseling begins, how could peer support continue to complement the professional services? Sam is now seeing counseling, but they're also engaged with SOAR and peer support. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Melissa. Builds in it. Yeah. So they can provide encouragement and emotional support in between counseling sessions. So the great thing about peer support and SOAR is that there's a lot more flexibility in connecting with someone and not like waiting for an appointment. If both parties in agreement, someone could reach out and be like, "Hey, I really need to talk to someone tomorrow. What's your availability?" It's different than waiting for your appointment for counseling or therapy. Practical coping strategies and help reinforce skills and goals that Sam is working on in therapy. Provide a safe space. Right. So this slide is highlighting the impact of peer support at both the individual and community level. So for individuals, peer support can lead to greater confidence as people feel more understood, believe, supported. It can also increase engagement, meaning people are more likely to connect with services and supports when they feel safe and heard. And over time, this can help build stronger support networks and reduce isolation. All of these factors contribute to an overall improved quality of life. At the community level, peer support also has a broader impact. It can improve the growth of volunteer leadership as people with lived experience step into meaningful roles. It helps reduce stigma by increasing understanding and normalizing conversations about lived experience and mental health. Peer support can also lead to earlier access to support, as people are more likely to reach out when peer services are visible and accessible. And finally, it strengthens community partnerships by connecting organizations, services, and individuals in more collaborative ways. And together, these outcomes show that peer support doesn't just benefit individuals, it also helps build healthier, more connected communities. So, key takeaways from this presentation today is number one, peer support is rooted in shared lived experience. It builds safety, trust, empowerment, and hope, is evidence informed and increasingly recognized as an effective practice, complements professional services, strengthens individuals, communities, and systems of care, and peer support recognized lived experience as expertise. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you all so much for giving up lunch breaks. Maybe you're trying to get other things done. It's a beautiful day. You engage so well in the chat, which I appreciate, and are all amazing, wonderful humans. I'm assuming that many of you are in social work, and I'm just awed by your existence and the work that you're doing and your human-centered, focused careers. So keep doing what you're doing and plugging on, and remember to support each other and support yourself, because this work is so, so very important. So thank you all so much.
Thanks, Catherine, so much for leading us through that. I was reflecting a lot on my own journey with peer support and my own training in peer support. I used to run a peer support based organization. And one of the things I'm thinking about right now is just encourage people to do further training in peer support, even if you're a clinician, even if you're a social worker. Yeah, there are so many lessons from peer support that can be applied in practice that I think are really, really important. I just put in the chat a link to our evaluation survey, so we'd love for people to fill that out, tell us what you think about the session, provide some feedback, link to our Eventbrite, and also a link to our pre-recorded webinars in the chat. And we'd love to hear from folks as we wrap up the session for you. What are you taking away from the session? Anything you're still curious about? And anything else you want to share as we wrap up our time together? And Catherine, if I could just share my screen.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
No, no, you can't.
Yeah.
No, stop sharing.
Oh, I think I did it all right. I think I did it on
Oh,
my
you
own.
did it.
Sorry.
Perfect.
It's
Great.
the power I hold,
I'll
apparently.
turn my video on.
Yeah. So again, want to see or hear from folks if you can. What are you taking away from the session? Anything you're still curious about? Anything else you want to share as we wrap up our time together? And I just see a question from Catherine McCormick. Is there a wait list to be connected to a peer supporter? How long does this typically take? Can you answer that, Catherine?
I did say so it could be as little as 24 hours, actually. It really just depends on the needs of the person. Because we're a small organization and our matching person knows all the peer supporters so well, it's just a matter of like getting off the phone with the peer and just like calling up the other person and being like, hey, this is a situation. So it can be really quick, which is
Cool.
great. And there's no wait list right now. And we're training new peer supporters every year. So we're having more people able to help.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. Want to just point to this graphic. And so thinking about peer support and helping practices, I often look to nature for helping me better understand complex issues. And many of the issues we're facing right now are complex and they're generational in making. And so I have a fascination with starlings. People who know me well know that I love starlings. So I love this graphic. And it says, facing a big complex problem, pause and picture starlings in the sky. They fly in perfect sync, swirling and shifting as one, no leader, no fixed plan. It turns out each bird is adapting to only 6 or 7 others. So the research shows that starlings just pay attention to their 7 closest neighbors and are in deep relationship as they fly these patterns, murmurations that can be upwards of 1 million birds. And so when I think about a truly just world. And I think about peer support. It reminds me of Star Wars and this idea of that we relationship and supporting each other in complex ways. So grateful to you, Catherine, for being here today,
Thank you.
telling us more about SOAR and peer support. If folks have questions and want to reach out to the folks at SOAR, please do. There's links to that in the presentation. I'll put the website in as well in the chat.
Yeah, and if anyone wanted to individually meet online virtually with me or connect with me, I'm happy to do so.
So with that, I hope you have things to look forward to. Stay cool out there today because it is quite warm, and I hope that you have things to look forward to all summer. That'll end the recording.